Hey everybody, Jeremy Siskind here. I'm the author of that book, Playing Solo Jazz Piano. And today I have what I think is a really interesting subject of when you can actually use the blues scale. I feel like we teach the blues scale, we learn the blues scale, we love the blues scale, but it's never really clear when we can actually use it. And I find that a lot of, musicians, amateurs, and professionals either underuse or overuse it. Usually it's not the exact right seasoning in my opinion. So what I did, and this was really interesting for me to do, is I tried to pinpoint all of the different situations in which you can use a blues scale. So let's dive in. I do want to warn you, unfortunately my piano is a little bit buzzy today. You can hear it. There's just a little extra noise going on. It doesn't like the weather, so I'm trying to sell books so I can buy a new piano, but it's a lot of book sales. So, help me out if you can. So, first thing, when I'm talking about the blues scale, I'm talking about this scale. I know some people talk about the minor blues scale and the major blues scale. I kind of hate that because the blues just doesn't fit into our Western tonal systems. So in any key, you can find the blues scale, what I'm at least calling the blues scale, with the 1, the flat 3, as compared to the major scale. So it's the minor third, the 4th of the major scale, the sharp 4, or that says flat 5 there, the natural 5, and then the flat 7. Again, that's the flat 7 as compared to the major scale. So this is your blues scale in the key of F. Now, one more ground rule that I need to establish before we dive into talking about where and how you can use this scale is that with any scale, you don't just have free reign to use any of the notes whenever. Notes within a scale still have a pull, right? Probably the most important example would be within a major scale. If I'm playing F major, if I'm playing an F major chord, I'm going to play the F major scale with that chord. But if I just hit the 4th, it really doesn't match the chord well at all. So this 4th, you need to listen and know that it needs to resolve down. And although the blues scale, has all these rubs, and we like the rubs, and we accept the rubs in the blues, these notes still have pulls. And so you really need to use your ear and listen to the pulls. You can't just use any of these notes of the blues scale all the time. You don't just have a blank slate. Because you could make a really terrible sounding, if I play an F chord, you could really sound like you don't know what you're doing at all using this blues scale. So listen for the pulls of the notes. And when you have a nice long note, when you have a note on the downbeat, you want to go to the notes that are going to be more stable sounding. That's not to say that you can't play into some dissonances, some rubs. We love doing that in the blues. But when we come to our resting places, they need to feel like resting places. Okay? All right. So the first thing that we can do with a blues scale is we can use it on a blues form, whether it's a major blues form or a minor blues form. This works with just about any blues. So if I'm going to go through kind of an F blues, in all of these examples, I'm only going to be using the F blues scale. I'm not going to go outside of it at all. If I'm actually playing a blues, of course, I'm going to mix in some blues scale and then some notes that have to do more with the chords that are going by. But for now, just to prove my point, I'm going to just be using this F blues scale. And same thing if I have a minor blues. Cool. You can hear that scale and that form match pretty well. And notice, and some students sometimes get confused about this, and new learners, I'm not changing blues scales as I change chords. When you go to the B flat chord, you don't go to the B flat blues scale. You still keep using that F blues scale. And this is one of the magical things about the blues scale, is that the blues scale goes with a key center rather than necessarily with a specific chord. usually in jazz theory we talk about changing scales for each chord, but not with the blues scale. The blues scale goes with an entire blues form. Okay, these next, I think I have 5 different kinds of progressions. These are all in a major key. So I'm, again, going to be using the F blues scale, and I'm going to be playing in F major. Okay, so the first thing we can do is we can use it on a 2-5-1 in F, or a variant of the 2-5-1. And by variant, I mean, you know, if you're using a tritone substitution for the C or something like that. So and notice a lot of my phrases are ending with F. F has this really strong pull in the blues scale. So, you know, if you're wondering how do I make this blues scale sound better, go with that gravitational pull towards the tonic note. Okay, so you can hear it works really beautifully with the 2-5-1, or here I'll play it with the tritone sub. Good, and so it's not without rubs, right? I'll play an F major 7th chord, and I'll play this flat 7. Okay with the rubs because it's the blues. You do sometimes hear pianists, Oscar Peterson is one, substituting dominant chords in when they play bluesy. Not all the time, but that is something that you could do if you really want to, you know, emphasize that. Here I'm playing that E flat, so I'm making it an F7 instead of an F major. All right, so third thing you can do, and this is, you know, not so far from that 2-5, is any variation of this kind of heart and soul 1-6-2-5, 1-6-4-5 progression. We find this all over the place in music. In rhythm changes is somewhere we find it a lot. In turnarounds for tunes. Think of the Prince song, Why Don't You Call Me Anymore? And so, by the way, in this 1-6-2-5 progression, it works fine whether you have these D and the G, this 6 and the 2, as minor, or if you want to make them dominant, it also sounds fine. So 1-6-2-5, 1-6-4-5, any variation of that. In a major key, I would argue, and people here may disagree, I'll be interested to hear. I think you could pull it off if you're doing a 2-5-1 to 4 or a 2-5-1 to 6. So if I'm in F, and again, I'm not changing blues scales, I'm staying with that tonic blues scale. There's a 2-5-1 to B flat major. Listen one more time. Sorry. I'll do it one more time because I messed it up. And notice the pull for me is still to F, although you could end on a B flat too, or a 2-5-1 to D minor. You have to be really careful as you get to that D minor. There's not a lot of safe notes, right? Like, none of those are notes you really want to play against the D minor. So you're a little bit limited as you get there, but I think it works. I think both of those work. Number 5, you could argue this is kind of related to the 1-6-2-5, but I just wanted to include it just in case. So this is a chromatic walkup, so think of the beginning of Ain't Misbehavin'. Okay. Blues is going to work great there. So now that we know all these things, I could use the blues scale over that that entire A section of 8 misbehaving, which is pretty neat. And then number 6 here is the backdoor 2/5. I know different people call this different things, but this would be essentially a B flat minor 7 to an E flat 7 leading to F. This happens quite a lot in music. Blues scale sounds great with it. Great sound. Definitely use that F blues scale. So those are some ways in a major key that you can use the blues scale. I need to go to my next slide. So in a minor key now, again, you can use it for a 2/5-1 or a variant of a 2/5-1. Let me see if I can get those chords onto the camera. Come on, good enough. For a minor 2/5-1, someday I'll make a video on minor 2/5-1s. They're really interesting, but I play them as a half diminished chord to a dominant 7th, flat 9, usually to a minor 6. So the blues scale. Again, I'm not changing blues scales. There's just this one blues scale that I'm using, whether it's a major key or a minor key. So that's why, one of the reasons I don't like this major blues scale, minor blues scale business. Okay. Number 8, we saw this in the major key, but it's also true in minor. A 1-6-2-5 or a variant of that. Sometimes we go to like the flat 6, right? Minor keys are complex with their 6 and their 7, so sometimes we might go like to F minor, to D flat major, oh, I went off the blues scale. Old habits die hard. Okay, and then there's 3 chords that I think that you could tonicize in a minor key where I believe the blues scale will work great. One is the relative major, which is the 3. And this makes obvious sense because if you did believe in minor versus major blues scales, the minor blues scale and the minor blues scale from a minor key is the same as the major blues scale from its relative major key. So if you flip it, if you're interested in this major blues scale, it's the root, the 2nd, the flat 3, the 3, the 5, and the 6. Or another way to say it is it's the major pentatonic with an added lowered 3rd. So that clearly works. I think it also works going to a minor 4. Reminds me of Monin. Right? Or I think if you go to the 6th chord, which is a major chord, and we already kind of saw that D flat major. I think the blues scale sounds good. There's your 2-5 to 4, relative major. Regular minor 2-5-1. Here's your 2-5 to 6. So that's the end of this little talk. Those are the ways that I see you being able to use the blues scale. The blues scale is such an important part of the jazz idiom, and I think the best players mix some amount of playing the changes, outlining the changes with blues vocabulary. If you are enjoying this, and you want to help me out and buy an amazing book, buy my book from my website. I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps, the algorithm send my videos out to other people. So thanks so much for watching. Take care.